Okay, I think we should get started. We have 146 people who have called in. Good afternoon to everyone and welcome from the DECT Forum to this first of a new series of webinars that we will run during 2024 on the topic of the DECT NR Plus technology. Speakers today, apart from myself, and I am Roland Tink, and I represent the DECT Forum. The other speakers today are Lauru Piikivi from Nordic Semiconductor. He is Technical Product Manager at Nordic Semiconductor and responsible for the DECT NR Plus chipsets. And we will also be joined by Jari Hämäläinen, who is Vice President of Product Management in Wirepas. So a short overview of DECT NR Plus. It's a standard that has been developed by ETSI, and within ETSI it's called DECT 2020 NR, which stands for New Radio. There are 5 different documents that capture all the specifications of the standard. They are the TS103636 series, and these are publicly available. Then there is also a so-called harmonized standard, which captures the essential technical requirements that support the European Commission mandates and that allow products to be type approved in Europe. And that standard is also available and approved. Then looking at IMT 2020 and the ITU, so the guidelines that ITU has set for 5G technologies are captured in the IMT 2020 framework, and that you see the connection with the DECT 2020 name here. And there are 3 different areas of requirements set for IMT 2020. They are in terms of enhanced bandwidth or enhanced mobile broadband. They are high density through massive machine type communications. Then they are in the area of ultra reliable and low latency communications. And the DECT standard fulfills 2 out of these 3 areas in the triangle, and that is the reason for ITU to approve DECT 2020 as a 5G technology. Then the applications for this new technology. First of all, it is an agnostic technology, so it can essentially be used for any wireless communications. But the first targets for the technology are smart metering and smart grids, and also smart cities. Think about lighting in cities. Secondly, industrial IoT. And then there are already quite a few companies interested in audio applications for NR+, so professional audio applications. And finally, we're also pointing our arrows now at smart homes and buildings. I'll come back to that in the next slide. So what are the features and benefits of this technology? So it is possible to use it in licensed and license-free ways. In the dedicated frequency band, the DECT frequency band, it is of course license-free, which is one of the great benefits of DECT NR Plus compared to several other technologies. It is self-healing, autonomous and robust, and is built for mesh networking. It supports a long range, I think measured up to a few kilometers outdoor. And then connecting again to the ITU requirements of high density machine-to-machine communication, low latency and reliability. Then a few words about the DECT Forum activities. Already mentioned, we have the technology approved in the EU, and now of course we are interested also to roll it out in other parts of the world. We're active now with the FCC to get DECT NR Plus also approved in the US. This requires a change of the requirements for what is called the UPCS band in the US, and we're working on a petition to get those changes in place. There's already healthy interest from several US companies, so in that sense, our initiatives here are timely. Although having said that, it will take quite a bit of time before we get this done. The other parts of the world, we're also active, but I want to talk here a little bit about Europe, because we have in Europe the 3.8 to 4.2 gigahertz band, which has been assigned by the European Union for wireless broadband systems, and specifically for local area network connectivity, focusing on vertical and other terrestrial wireless use cases. So this is a very interesting frequency band of 400 megahertz that is going to be available in Europe. It is already available in the UK and Norway against local conditions. But the European regulator, CEPT, is working on setting the requirements for the use of this band, and DECT Forum and its members are very active in getting DECT approved. So we look forward to being able to use this band in the foreseeable future. And again, 400 megahertz compared to the 20 megahertz that we have today is, of course, an enormous opportunity. Then the focus has been primarily on IoT, as we presented last year, but there are, as already mentioned, very many companies now interested in professional audio applications. There is interest from the healthcare market, and there is also interest from smart home, which was not initially a target for this technology, but we see that it is applicable there. And we are working with the CSA, which is the Connectivity Standards Alliance, and they are the owner of the Meta standard, Meta protocol. Of course, it's of great interest for us to have DECT NR Plus also supported by them as like a constituting technology for Meta. So that's something that we're working on. We've got quite a few advocates and supporters inside the organization already. There isn't a decision, but we hope to get it during this year. That'll be another major step forward and opening up far more opportunities than we already have in the industrial segments. Marketing, for the first time since a few years, DECT Forum actually is present at the major event, which is the Hannover Messe, which happened last week, one of the biggest events in the world. There was a special area called the 5G Arena, where we had our own stands together with Nordic Semiconductor, Wirepas, and Last Mile Semiconductor. And there are going to be several other events during this year. I'm going to come back to that at the end of the meeting, but I want to promote the DECT World event, which will take place in Munich in November 14-15. Same dates as for the Electronica Fair, so people interested in coming to our event could also take that possibility to see visit the Electronica event, which is one of the largest events in the world also. And you will find more information about joining that on the DECT Forum website. Okay, with that was my short summary. And then I'd like to hand over to Lauru Piikivi from Nordic.
Thank you, Raul. So my name is Lauru Piikivi, and I work for Nordic Semiconductor. And we have the hardware or the chips available now for DECT, so I will present them shortly here. So we have at the moment 3 chips that support the DECT NR Plus. And these 3 chips are the same that support LTE M and NB-IoT cellular systems. So what we have done is provide like an alternative, a modern firmware implementation. So you can buy these and change the software to DECT NR Plus. And the note there that we can't coexist with the cellular modem at the moment. So it's either cellular or NR plus with these SIPs. And our SIP is this kind of combination SIP that we have the modem side and the application core side, and there is room for the application then on the flash and RAM. And then there are these kind of normal I/O and serial bus interfaces. And this highlights that kind of architecture a bit more. So our SIP is a system integration. So what you have on these SIPs is usually you have the host MCU, or you always have the host MCU side, the RF front end, and the radio modem side with a secure element. And then we come to a bit of difference there, that with the 9131, which is like a cost-optimized version of these SIPs, then the PMIC and Crystal are outside of that SIP. So that gives more flexibility to find the sweet spot for products, especially in this NR Plus application area where the power supply can be mains powered and the Crystal can be more tuned or is not so size restricted, as it doesn't have to be placed inside the SIP module itself. But those are there and the space for the application to run. And what we have in this first phase is that we have the PHY implementation, so the lowest level of the radio modulation and TX and RX functions is implemented on the modem side with an API towards the application side. And that means that for a customer, there are three options how you can develop your device. So you have the option of the Wirepas 5G mesh, which Jari will go through in more detail after me. Or you have this partner link networks offering of low latency audio and low latency like real-time sensor software stack. Or you can implement everything by yourselves. And this has been selected by a number of our pre-release customers that have had access to the API now for a limited time to start looking at it and thinking how they want to implement their products. And to help this kind of implementation work, we have the development kits available. So for the 9161, the development kit is available and can be ordered from distributors worldwide. There will be another development kit for the 9151 when that comes to like mass production late summer, early autumn this year. And all of these 91 family SIPs, they are compatible in software. So if you develop on the 9161 development board, you can take that application and then move it to 9151. Of course, in embedded environments, you always have these changes that are your PCB defined. So for example, if you map the serial buses to different pins than what has been done on the development board, then there is the kind of adaptation layer in the SDK that Nordic offers for the development, that you can define your own PCB and kind of very easily select a different build target for your PCB, and the pins will be mapped. The interesting question we always get on the power consumption on these devices and the dev kit is shortly that we still haven't published the power measurements on the DECT NR Plus development or technology itself, but it's very much comparable to the cellular power consumption that we publish in our product specifications. So with similar kind of transmission powers and reception times and so on, you can see the power consumption numbers from there. And that's it very shortly for the hardware. So the hardware is available and the development can be started. And there are different options how you want to develop. And now I give the floor to Jari to go through this mesh side SDK and how that can be used in development.
For example, the application areas like smart metering, smart tracking, smart manufacturing, or smart building. We have different type of hardware built by our product customers, as you can see in the picture here. So there are various kind of battery operated products as well as then the main power product. And altogether, the mesh network is monitored and also the issues in the network potentially are handled with the web UI following the operations of the network. And here actually the story is about the Wirepas mesh overall, but now we can move to the 5G mesh related content. So when we consider the benefits of the new Radio Plus technology and the standards, it's amazing performance in unseen cost point. And that is because we operate on a free license exempt global spectrum. There is no need for the SIM cards. There is high reliability. For example, the service level agreements beyond 99.9% are possible. Also, scalability all the way up to thousands of equipment in area which is size of a terminal or stadium, and thousands of devices connected per gateway. And the radio network range or coverage extending by each node. And especially the superior coverage is important because there are no black spots, for example, the cellars or machine rooms. The penetration is through the walls and difficult metallic environments due to connectivity of the mesh between the different neighboring nodes. So the most demanding environments inside and outside are covered. And if you take an example of the end user case of utilities and the product company preparing smart metering on that environment. So the case smart electricity metering. First of all, the end customer utility is selecting a product company to build overall end-to-end system for the smart electricity metering. And the product company, in this case, smart electricity meter manufacturer, is selecting the right chipset that is supporting the Wirepas 5G mesh pre-integrated. Then the product company uses the Wirepas SDK to integrate the Wirepas 5G mesh into their applications and provide the overall product to the end customer, which is then utilized by the utility end customer for the operations of the smart electricity meters and smart electricity network. If you think about how do you get started with the NR Plus, first of all, if you are an industrial end customer, you should be looking for the right partner, which you can find from the Wirepas Partner Program. But if you are a product or solution provider, you can join Wirepas Partner Program in order to get access to Wirepas products. You choose your own chipset, license the Wirepas product, and get prepared to fulfill the harmonized standard or product certification requirements. On the other hand, if you are a technology provider like wireless technology provider, then we recommend you to get familiar with the ETSI standard on the DECT 2020 new radio, as well as then join the standardization in order to become a leading wireless technology provider. When we think about the Wirepas software products overall, we have actually the basis built on top of device hardware, in this case the chipsets like Nordic Semiconductor chipsets. The Wirepas mesh software is built pre-integrated into those chipsets, and any application is actually built on top of the chipset with the Wirepas software. Those kind of products are forming the mesh network, which you can see in the middle of the picture, and they are connected through the gateway to the backend and through the internet, where we have actually the Wirepas backend for the operations and also monitoring of the mesh network operations. We also have a connectivity through the gateway to the customer backend and data, which is the basis for the utility or other end customer operations. But altogether, if we consider the Wirepas mesh network, the core software, the gateway software, as well as then the backend software, we are talking about the Wirepas connectivity, which comes with the end-to-end overall benefits. And when you are starting to get hands-on with the 5G mesh, first of all, you should read the documentation of the Wirepas connectivity suite in our developer portal. You should contact Nordic Semiconductor related to the nRF91 series of the chipset hardware. You should license and get access to the Wirepas 5G mesh software. Download the latest SDK and the software binaries from the GitHub and run those on top of the Nordic Semiconductor nRF91 platform. And if you are building smart electricity meter application, for the quick start, we recommend our reference application to support the DLMS-based communications, which is the protocol used often in the smart metering connectivity. So all of this in one platform, including the Wirepas 5G mesh radio, as well as then the earlier Bluetooth low energy 2.4 gigahertz, as well as then the sub-gigahertz radios. When considering our first product in the Wirepas 5G mesh, first of all, we built on the massive machine type IoT type of applications. From the physical layer, we utilize the Nordic nRF91 series chipset on the 1.9 gigahertz range and all the way up to plus 19 dBn power levels, which have been in the measurements giving range over 5 kilometers line of sight, but depending on the environment like city or building type of environments, starting from few hundreds of meters of the radio range. When considering the media access control, we provide for the transmission, the power control, as well as the access control functionalities. We provide the next hop selection support, and for the spectrum management, channel selection and channel change for the route. Also the load balancing with the route cost calculation is included. And going up to the data link layer, we provide 2 types of quality of service. Also the automatic retransmission requests and the next hop routing, uplink and downlink. On the convergence layer, we provide segmentation and reassembly all the way up to 1,500 byte PDUs, packet data units, as well as then over-the-air protocol for the software updates on the mesh network side, as well as then on the chipset side. As if we recap the Wirepas 5G mesh offering, first of all, it's for the long-range profile and the low latency applications. It's meant for the mains powered devices, not yet with the current implementation for the battery operated devices due to the power consumption and the battery lifetime aspects. For example, smart electricity metering, emergency lighting, street lighting, as well as then the heating, ventilation, and air conditioning control are the key use cases. And the product is available in the radio band 1, which is available for the European Union and additional set countries, as well as then Australia, New Zealand, South Africa, and India, for example. So with all of this, you get the non-cellular 5G connectivity network for enterprise IoT, which is scalable for the high masses and high densities.
Because I just wanted to mention here at the end of the presentation that many people are always asking us for demos, and we do those demos. We have done those already in several places, and hopefully some of them near you, and we will continue to do so in the near future. So here are just some images of how that demonstration looks. The feedback then. So first of all, we've been at the Mobile World Congress. We've been the National Facilities Management and Technology Conference. We've been at, and I'm saying we, it's either DECT Forum or its members, Wirepas, Nordic, or Last Mile Semiconductor. But we've been at Distributech. We've been at a CSA member meeting, connected, of course, to the approval in Mata, and Schneider Innovation Summit, Schneider being the big electronics firm, Embedded World very recently in Nuremberg, and then last week at the Hannover Messe. The feedback's been very good. So many people are impressed with what the technology is capable of doing. And of course, there's loads of questions about availability, well, spectrum throughout the different regions, which I talked about earlier. In the case of the DECT band, we do expect to see a rollout across the globe, but of course our ambitions are much higher. We want to also use other bands like the 3.8, 4.2, or the CBRS band in the United States also over time. That availability of stacks and chips and products as well. So all of these things are being worked on very hard. Everything takes time. Then there's a high demand for evaluation, seeing things work, and yeah, we were impressed ourselves with to see how the technology works in a big busy hall with a lot of other radio traffic. So these events have been very good for us so far. Then looking ahead at the year ahead, we have something in Switzerland which is called Power Tage. We have the Smarter E in Munich in June. Then there is a Wirepas event, which I'll come back to in a moment. We have the Mobile World Congress in Shanghai in June. Then there's another organization which organizes the Things Conference. They have a event after the summer in the Netherlands in September. NLIT in Europe in October. And then in November, it's time for Electronica and the Wireless Congress. And one thing that we could have added here, although I'm not sure if we're going to do a demo, but this is then at the same time as the DECT Forum event. Once again, I'd like to invite everyone to join for that. I saw a question already in the among the questions that have come in. Is it a free event? Yes, it is. So you can sign up. That it will only cost you the travel, of course, but the event itself is free, and I can guarantee you that there are going to be all the people who are sort of important in this, in this new industry or working with this new standard. So it's an excellent opportunity to do some networking. And I can also say last year it was a very nice event, very good atmosphere. So I warmly recommend that. And again, you can also take the opportunity and go to Electronica or join the Wireless Congress. So lots of opportunities to go and take a look at the DECT NR Plus technology. Then I have a slide here, which is a special invitation for the attendees of this webinar only. And it's a Wirepas open event, which will take place in Helsinki on June 11 and 12. Here you can see the demo, and there's plenty of opportunity for networking there as well. And Wirepas offers a hotel discount, which is valid until end of tomorrow. So you do have some time, but not a lot of time to make up your mind. But again, we warmly recommend you to do that. Now there should be a link. For you to, I'm not sure. I get this at the bottom left of my screen now. Click here to register. I guess everybody can see that then. If not, let us know. I would like to do is to start to go through the questions. Very happy to see that there are many more questions now than there were in the previous webinar. So that is a good sign. I'm going to take them from the bottom. There are quite a few technical questions. I'll start with the first one that came in. I'm not sure I understand that one. What does the SCP landscape look like for DECT NR+? I don't know what SCP landscape means.
I believe that is about the IPR, the standard essential patents. And in that range, there are some declarations for the standard essential patents in the DECT 2020 New Reader standard, but very limited number, for example, compared to the massive number which is in the cellular technologies. So only few of those existing and declared.
Right. So the second part of that question is there any visibility on licensing cost for the DECT NR+ standard? And there's no licensing cost from the side of Etsy. In that sense, the standard is open, but I guess the IPR built into the stacks of individual companies could be subject to licensing.
Yeah, in this respect, it's in the standards always as a basis that the terms are so-called friends, so reasonable cost, but in the practice it is not defined what is actually exactly the IPR cost, or if they are actually included in the licenses. But we believe that the licensing cost of the standard essential patents in the area of new radio NR plus is going to be much smaller than, for example, in the area of the cellular telephones.
Okay, then I have here about the Wirepas SDK. Is it possible to use it for free, or is there a subscription to it?
There is actually, as defined, the licensing, for example, for the development as well as then for the commercial phase. But then ultimately in the commercial phase, it's royalties based on the number of nodes the customer is deploying in the commercial networks. But the development can be started with relatively low cost, for example, for experimenting how does the platform operate.
So there was this question of the battery consumption, and like I said, it is comparable to the cellular operation on the Nordic SIPs. So the data sheets for the cellular operation are available on the public web, and the numbers can be found there. Then there is a question on this 3.8 gigahertz band operation and how it would affect the range of NR+. So it's physics that when you go up in the frequency, you go down in the range. So the 3.8 would impact the range of the technology. But I want to add here that the 3.8 is like a future item. It's a discussion still in like a regulatory environment on this frequency management, that how is this 3.8 band used and shared between different technologies. And when that clears up, it's still an implementation task on the whole hardware side, that our current hardware supports the 1.9 gigahertz band, like the classic DECT band. And there was a question on this FCC or US approvals. So in the US, there is existing rules for the DECT band, UPCS band. I hope I remember that acronym correctly now, UPCS or UCPS or something like that, which is like the classic DECT operation. So NR Plus can be type approved against that specification. The specification is kind of technology independent. What we are working on is changes on the FCC regulation. For example, they calculate the TX power differently from the EU. So you can't use the same TX power in the US as you can now in the EU. And we hope to change those rules, but type approval is already possible. There is a question on this coexistence of IoT with the DECT phones, and it is a major feature of the NR Plus standard to coexist with the what we call classic DECT. So there are many features there that ensure the operation alongside the DECT phone. So there is like a listen before talk operation, so you can't transmit if somebody is already on the band. And there is like a time window scanning and marking that what time slots are available for NR Plus operation. So you can detect the classic DECT operation as they happen in the same time slots of all the frames. And then you need to avoid sending over those time slots when the classic DECT is in operation.
Yeah, I see one here. How's the approval of NR Plus in USA going? So it's a formal process. You have to write a petition, and it was the only technology that we know is in the UPCS band today is classic DECT. We don't we know that DECT NR Plus and Classic DECT can coexist, so there's no issue there. But of course there are the adjacent bands, and then of course we need to make sure that we don't cause interference there. That's where most of the discussion is going to be. So we're working on filing a informal petition with the FCC, and of course they will go out with public consultations, and we will get feedback. And I saw also another question about how long does that take. Well, we did ask that question to the FCC as well, and they said that it would be at least a year, but could also be longer. So it's not something that you can fix in a couple of months. It is something that could take 1 or 2 years to 2 years. Yeah, all right. That's the timeline for the FCC approval. Then another question: we also get Canadian approval. My understanding is that the FCC approval in the US will also apply in Canada, but I'm not 100% sure. So that's something we can check on.
So Canada has the same regulation basically as US, but you need to type approve separately for Canada.
I'll go to the next questions. Are there some Nordic applications that use DECT NR Plus already online and available to everyone?
Okay, so we've had some usual software releasing hiccups. So we will have a sample application and the SDK support, the Nordic Software Development Kit support for DECT NR Plus coming out end of June.
Okay, thank you. Then we have does NR Plus define an application layer?
So I can answer that it's
Yes.
not in the NR Plus scope to define the application layer. It is the radio transport.
Right. Okay, then I have a question here from David Mikalev. I have a question for Lauri. Are there any plans to support dual NR Plus and cellular working in parallel? And he has further up in the chain and further clarification of that question. Just wanted to clarify a bit my previous.
There was a very similar.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So there was similar question. So they can exist and they can be run in parallel. So they are on different frequencies. Our current hardware is not made to run them in parallel in the same hardware at the same time. And we are focusing on low power cellular operation. So I don't see us making the kind of complex hardware that would be able to run these in parallel. But if you run 2 different radios, then it is possible to run one radio with DECT NR Plus and the other with cellular.
Okay, thank you, Lauri. Now another question for you here. Does GNSS GPS work along with the DECT physical firmware?
No. So the GPS support that the NRF91 family has, it is a feature of the cellular firmware. So when you switch the firmware to DECT NR Plus, there is no GPS support.
Okay, thank you. That also answers another question from Min Nguyen. I see they're up there, but there's another one in between here. Is it possible to have the Wirepas and link stack on the NRF 9161 and a custom app? Or the NRF 9161 will have place only for the NR Plus stack? Is that something we can answer?
So I can start and Jari can then continue. So it is very much possible to run the stack and an application there on the application side. and it can be a very complex application as well. Jari, if you want to elaborate on this.
Yes, that is so that we provide exactly like Lauri was commenting, and no further information.
Okay, thank you. So here's a question on spectrum. Early in the presentation, you mentioned DECT NR Plus can work in licensed and unlicensed bands. Could you please clarify if the spectrum itself needs to be licensed? Now, so if I look at the, I'm not an expert here, but if I look at the 3.8, 4.2 bands and the way it's being used in the UK, and the intention is that it will be used in a similar way in the rest of Europe, is that the regulator would provide licenses to blocks of spectrum to people applying for that. So in that sense, the spectrum is licensed. Anything Lauri and Jari want to add to that? Okay, now and then here, can NR Plus be used for geolocating moving devices? I guess that's connected to the GNSS GPS question then.
Well, yeah, I mean, like I said, the GPS is not there, but if this refers to like more like the kind of tags as used in Bluetooth Low Energy, then there is no explicit support in the specification now. But if it's enough to know which kind of receiving station it hears, or what receiving station hears that tag device, then that is one way of locating it, or then kind of triangulating multiple receiving stations and getting more specific there, but that requires now some application level implementation.
Yeah. Okay.
And then actually for the if you think about the Wirepas applications, we have actually in the 2.4 gigahertz area our proprietary solution for the tracking, as Lauri was mentioning, and that is possible with the NR Plus standard as well as in the future. But when considering that the first implementations are with the mains powered applications, so the future actually roadmap needs to cover those kind of location positioning DACs with this kind of NR Plus technology.
Yeah. Okay, in view of the time, I think we should take one more questions, and there's still more coming in. And just like in the for the webinars last year, we are going to answer all of the questions by email after the meeting. We also did that last year, and depending on the question, they'll also end up in the FAQ. So sorry that we're now running out of time. But you will get an answer to your question. But there's one last one here: is what are the plans for getting DECT NR Plus approved in India? Here I can say the DECT Forum established a working group specifically to get that done. We had in the past a local organization. That's something we're still considering. So India is very much on our radar. So that's the plan. So what needs to be done now is there needs to be local support for companies actually using that standard. I think the benefits are already clear to the regulator. We need to have local support. We're working on gathering that. We also have the ETSI organization, the ETSI representative in India, who is as we speak, working locally to get this done. So there's several different activities. We keep on the ball, and India is definitely a country that we want to now get access to. With that, we've come to the end of this meeting. Different from last year, we don't have a very fixed schedule for further webinars, but we do intend to have one in September, at which time we hope to be able to present some of the first customer cases to all of you. And of course, you'll be notified of those follow-up meetings in the usual way. I'd like to thank everyone. I think there's just, you can see there's still 122 people here. We had 170 at most, but that's very promising. Thanks very much, everyone, for joining us today, and stay with us. And I'll see you in the next meeting. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.